Just under a year ago, I was on the subway in a 90-degree New York day, and I got stopped, just stuck right in between two stations. I didn't have my Wi-Fi, I didn't have my service, and my podcast had just run out. So there's nothing for me to do except to sit and next to this sweaty person who probably hadn't showered in about 30 years. And I'm just sitting there, and I think to myself, what could have prepared me for this moment? I'm Katherine Craig, and this is a Midwesterner's Guide to Manhattan. There are two different parts of this. The first part is a print component. It is a small book with tips and tricks of adjusting to New York lifestyle from a Midwesterner's point of view. And the goal of this project is to be able to inspire, empower, and encourage women from the Midwest as they embark on the journey to conquer the New York world. Of course, there is some humor behind this idea. I want people to realize that you can laugh in any situation, whether you have just been yelled at, whether you have just been crying in the corner because you're overly overwhelmed. Other people have been there too, which is why I've also included tips from other Midwestern women who have moved up to New York. An example is Sarah Meyer, who is from Indianapolis, and she owns her own restaurant up in New York, but had gone through and started in the fashion industry. Because the truth is, if it were easy, every single Midwestern woman would head up there and do that and conquer the New York or the East Coast world. But the biggest thing is there isn't necessarily a community there. People are going to be asking questions to strangers. So why isn't there a nicer way or a friendlier way to ask questions from Midwesterners specifically, which is where I would like to enter in my app. So the Midwesterner's Guide to Manhattan app is going to be an iOS app that includes geolocation and a forum. So it is very simple and graphic-wise because I understand that apps take up a lot of space on the phone, but as well as they take up a lot of battery, and your battery is already draining when you're running around the city. And then in addition, of course, you have to watch your data usage, which is why the biggest part, or the part that is going to take up the most battery and data usage, is the map aspect of it. So you can see right here, you can see there's a forum and a meetup map. So if you click on the forum, you're going to see a Reddit style thread of different questions that people are going to be able to ask. You are able to post whatever questions you have, and it can be something like, I have an interview at DKNY, does anyone have an idea of what I should wear? Or is it safe to go running in Central Park by myself? Or, the L train has been under construction for months. Does anyone know the best way for me to get from Brooklyn to Manhattan? This is going to encourage that women are able to ask their questions and get an answer from someone who has been in their same shoes, in their same position. But then my favorite part of the app is the map. This was inspired by Tinder, in all honesty. And the idea is that you can open this up when you are wanting to meet up with someone and you think, okay, I'm in Chinatown and I want to grab a cup of coffee. Let me open up this app and see, are there any other Midwestern women around? So I can see, oh look, Katherine Craig is there at Maman, and I see she's from St. Louis, Missouri. So I can click Contact Katherine. I could then go into a private chat with her and say, hey, how long are you going to be there? Are you willing to meet up for a few minutes? And it's just going to create this community of women where they can ask questions and inspire, empower, and encourage each other. Of course, there is also the option to turn your location off if you are just wanting to use the forum thread and not have a bunch of people contact you or ask questions. This app is sustainable in its own way because in the back of the book, there is a coupon code where someone is able to, if they buy the book itself, you're able to get 1 year of free access to this app. So if you don't buy the book, then you can still have access to the app by paying $1.99 a month. And after your free year runs out, I guess you could rebuy the book if you want, but in all honesty, people would probably end up spending $1.99 a month to have access to this app and be able to continue their relationship with other Midwestern women. I thank you guys so much for letting me come and for your time. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, if there are no questions, we'll move on to we do have a question.
Yeah. So when it comes to sustainability, isn't your goal sort of similar to dating apps, sort of to run out of customers by acclimating them to the city? So I guess like that's sort of, once you just sort of have a dive after about 2 months?
So there's another app called Raft. I don't know if you've heard of it. So that one kind of creates smaller miniature communities, and I think that is something that this would end up doing, is having miniature communities within boroughs. So you would be able to unlock different areas. Once you've met up with 5 people, you could join that borough community in Manhattan specifically, or in Park Slope specifically. But in addition, the book itself will have whenever you buy the book at a local bookstore, there's also going to be options to meet up through there and then join the app as a group, if that makes sense.
Katherine, didn't you also think about other cities? Because when I first saw you present,
Yes.
there was some talk about that as well.
Yeah, I would love to eventually move this app to open up an option in specifically DC and in Boston, and then other options would include hopefully Atlanta, and then LA would be other ones that I think have a large presence of Midwestern women. I think also it'd be fun to eventually, if this did take off, have people go vice versa, and maybe it could be something like a Northeasterner's guide to the Midwest. Oh.
Yeah, really quick. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to make it, a monthly cost as opposed to other like ad revenues sources?
Yeah. I want this to be a place where people feel safe and they're able to have their own opinions, and I don't want to have other advertisers possibly make them feel uncomfortable or like their stuff could be being sent or sold to someone else. I want it to all be my own personal, I have the access to it, or whoever owns the app is going to be the one that will have the actual access to it. Oh, there's
How do you envision the best way to navigate the forum would be? Are you going to have like topics or search or both?
Yeah, there is a search. There is a search bar. So if you're like looking up just Central Park, you could search just Central Park. But as for the beginning, when it's not, I would hope that eventually does get overwhelmed and I will have to have topic sections. But for the very beginning, it would just be in chronological order. So the most recent, and that will encourage if someone is like, help, I'm stuck on, I'm stuck on the M60 bus. What should I take? Someone sees that as their very first option. They're able to get it answered quickly.
Katherine, when you were in New York and you were having that experience, did you also look around at to see if this existed in any sort of other sort of format that you could use? Did someone else create something similar?
Yeah, I didn't find anything specifically toward Midwesterners. I did find a few things or a few groups that were all on the computer instead of an app, but for creatives. But for the most part, I really had so much trouble finding specific Midwestern groups. The very closest thing I found was the Facebook group of alumna from Stevens College, and that's honestly the most similar idea that I had. And I did tell them about this idea too, and they were excited about it.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, we have another question.
Is it for Midwesterners or for women?
It's for Midwestern women specifically. It's not going to be exclusive. It's fine if I don't mind if there's going to be a man on there by any means. But the target market is going to be for Midwestern women specifically, and that includes a lot of the topics of the book itself are going to be aimed toward women.
So the other thing that brings up the Midwestern women is, so like if you did this for Chicago, it's almost like you could do for New Yorkers going to Chicago. You could come up with for LA people going to Florida, that kind of stuff. So. Boston people.
Exactly. That's
well,
the
that
one
never worked.
That came up before. Yes, and that's and like I had said, I would love it if I could do. I think more people are slowly coming over here than people are going to New York. So like I said, I think maybe having a Northeastern or a New Englander's guide to the Midwestern cities would be a start. And then eventually, if there were enough excitement about that, I would break it down into cities. So a New Yorker's guide to Atlanta, a New Yorker's guide to mid-Missouri, a New Yorker's guide to Chicago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.